Hey everybody, miss me? I missed you too. Mike McFarland here, the Lake Fork Guide. Been several days since I've given you a rundown. It is wet, and wetter. Man, I can go out anywhere in my yard, just put my heel in the dirt, and instantly fills with water. Yes, the lake is over pool, which really, the timing on that is pretty cool. We just had really the rounds of spawn finally happened late April, late May, or mid May, but very late spawning, at least high numbers of fish spawning late. So lots of fry now and lots of junk and cover for it to stay in and survive in. With that, let's tell you about the lake. So last Saturday, the lake was 403.31. That's 403 feet above sea level. 403 is the full pool of the lake. 31.31 means a little more than 3 inches over pool. With the recent rains, we've gone up as far as 403.74. Today we're landing 403.64. So Monday 4.5, 4.4 Tuesday, 7.4 yesterday, 6.4 today. It's been an interesting roller coaster ride of lake level spiking with the water rising and the water falling. Remember, one of the rules of thumb, when the water's rising, so are the fish. They rise up in it. They're already up in it this time of year spawning, so when it rises, they just go up in it even more. Gets up in that heavy buckbrush, and with the water temperatures being in the upper 60s, low 70s, these fish are happy. They're happy up there in that buckbrush. They feel very protected. So they are in the junk, all right? That's just all there is to it. Water clarities, pretty mixed up, depends on where you are. They do have 4 and 5 gates open. That's why this lake is really dropping so rapidly. And we got up to 403.84 last week. And they dropped it 5-6 inches already before it came back again. So lots of water going through Lake Fork. That mud line sucking down because of the gates in the main body is really turning the main body chocolate, losing clarity, etc. But neither here nor there. The fish are not deep. They're just not deep. There's very few fish anyways. Someone's going to laugh at these. I know there was a 10-pounder just caught on a crankbait deep. We had a few decent fish Monday deep, but it just feels like the majority of them are shallow. So let's talk about your best approach. What you should be doing is, the frog bite is on. The frog bite's it. For me, I really keep it simple with my frogs. I generally want, I think I've talked about this before, if I'm around shad spawn, there's no doubt I got to have shad color. So a sexy shad, or more simple even, is just a white bottom. Okay, have a simple white bottom. I usually don't like to have just a white bottom, so I either want to have something that's got a little red lip, orange lip, or I'll make a marker on it, put a chartreuse pen on it. I don't like just that shiny, plain white bottom. I want to do something to it if it doesn't already have something done to it. But a whiter bottom, a yellower bottom, more yellowish, brim color type bottom, and then believe it or not, a brown, or orange. I'm more of a crawfish brown, crawfish orange color. Really like that. Those are my 3. I tend to keep with the popping, and I walk them. All right. If you'll use a king sling knot on that, you'll really be able to walk this thing right in place without hardly having to do anything at all. Just barely touch the tip, and that thing will right in its own place. Really deadly way, but you got to be able to throw it in the junk. You got to be able to throw it 2 or 3, buck brushes deep. You can't just hit the edges of it. You got to get it in there. You got to get it up in the junk. I talked about the 6th Sense frog, that Vega frog. It skips really well. Really nice for doing that. Generally, if you're struggling to get your frog, to skip or go underneath like that, you can put a little weight inside it. Take a little half of a drop shot weight and shove it in there. And that'll help you give a little more casting power, especially if you're throwing a frog in the wind. Don't put too much though, because it changes the buoyancy of the frog, changes a lot of things. So the other thing that is not talked about, but is what they call a walking frog, just a traditional pointed nose frog. Now, I don't seem to be able to walk this type of frog I'm unable to very well. So I do more of a lurch with it. I always make sure I got something in this type. Noise, something making a little bit of noise. And I have noticed that sometimes they'll want this over the popping type. Again, it's a Monday, Tuesday type of deal. So if you're out there and you got a frog bite on Monday, and then you go back on Tuesday and they're not biting it, or they're boiling on it and not eating it, you may try the different type instead of the popping, more of the pointed nose. And if you're in really, really heavy junk and debris, you might as well tie this guy on anyways, because you're not going to walk it much through the junk. So, but that's the deal with the frog. One last thing, if you're missing fish, there are some types of stinger hooks. Again, I like to throw frogs when I do throw them. I'm not famous for them, but when I throw them, I'm going to throw them in junk. So put the stinger hook on. They do have some special stinger hooks that you can find that fit the hook. Really unique. I think LFT Lures has one they make. And I'm sure in Tackle Warehouse you can find some stinger hooks for frogs. But if you're missing a lot of fish or losing them, you may want to try a stinger so it doesn't get you caught up too much. All right. So, one of the guys asked, what's the high water going to do to the fish? I've kind of already answered that. Even though they've got gates open and the water's dropping, it's so high up in the junk and so high up in that cover. It went quite a ways up into the junk. We have several good days minimum of what I would call a shallow water topwater bite. All right. So if you're coming here this weekend, there's just a little more rain still coming as well. If you're coming here, you need to be throwing the frog. Follow that frog up with a swim jig or any missed bites on the frog. Throw a Senko or the V&M chopstick, really good. Stop by Lake Fork Resort to get the V&M chopstick. I also, when the water's really, really dirty, and I'm throwing a frog, or this next top water that I'm going to talk about, I like to follow mist strikes up with just like a black and blue, but I want that sapphire. I want that sapphire blue on the craws, or even just a sapphire worm, a black and blue sapphire worm. It's something about that flipped back on a mist fish, mist buzzbait bite, for example. It's perfect. Texas rig it, flip it back when they miss your bait. You'll pick up a lot of those extra fish. When it comes to topwaters, the same kind of thing. I'm still looking for some shad spawn. There's still shad spawn to be fished. But if you're in the backwaters right now, and again, that's where I'd be, not necessarily backwaters anymore, but just all over those back coves and halfway back in the creeks and anywhere you can get a pocket of good high water up in that buckbrush and vegetation and bulrush. Buzzing types baits. All right, buzz bait, the small whopper plopper, realistically, even the popper, a more walking bait. Pay attention, listen, when the water rises this much, bass are predators and they'll eat a lot of things. They eat baby ducks, they eat snakes. Man, I saw a picture the other day of a big bass had eaten a small baby alligator. So really pay attention when you're in the backwaters right now, when the fish washed out. Because there's a lot of different baits that you could catch them on. You can catch them on a whopper plopper. You can catch them on the old devil's horse, the old days, the old devil's horse, or something like a devil propped buzz bait. Which leads me to really the next bait that I would really, really recommend is some type of a buzz bait. A buzz bait when the water's rising and high and in the rain is awesome. It's real noisy as it is. And then you can really kind of even make variations of that. I have what I call more of a stealthy buzzbait. The only noise that this buzzbait here is making is going to be through this triple blade. There's no holes in it. There's no bubbles. It's just through that blade. So I can even go under water, make it a little more stealth, but it's still got a lot of vibration. If I want to make noise, then I'm going to go to one of those clacking types where you have either an arm that smacks the metal, and sometimes these days they have them hitting the head themselves. I got a really unique one I'm going to show you that does that right now. But the whole object here is noise. Remember, it's really dirty. The water's risen really high. You want to get their attention. They're up in the junk. They don't necessarily have that good a vision. So to help them find it, let them see it. Let them hear it. Add the sight and the actual noise, not just a vibration. This is a really cool buzzbait right here. I just found it. Really, one of my buddies that fish with me found it. And I'm drawing a blank for some reason. Captain out of Florida that fished with me was really cool. But this actually strikes as tungsten. And so it makes a noise that's undeniable. And I mean, it is obnoxious and loud. Okay. So for me, generally, when I'm in this high water stuff and I'm throwing a buzzbait, I do want something that's obnoxious, loud, easy for them to locate. Generally, I'm going to throw darker colors, black and blue trailers. Again, if I'm around shad, always match that hatch, match the shad color and profile size. Okay, so there's your couple top water opportunities. And you could get real crazy in the backwater. This is the Buzz Jet. Okay, what this is a wake bait with a prop. So it's a prop bait, wake bait. It's really sloshing a lot of water. And again, big bass are predators. This high water rises, brings them up. It goes in there. This is warm water now. 70 degrees is warm water. They're hunting that stuff. And they're eating all kinds of things. It's post-spawn. Their recovery is pretty quick and they're hungry. So, man, noisy. Lots of atrocious water movement. All right, lesson, I think, made. The frog, the swim jig, okay? Follow-up baits, all right, for missed fish. And that's how we're fishing, okay? And that's what we're doing. Now, I'm continually, every day, going to move offshore and test that offshore stuff. Testing those deeper shell beds is really important because eventually there is going to be groups of fish that get out there. They're starting to show up. I had a friend catch a really big 10-pounder out cranking. I had I had a guide friend catch a 10-pounder, and David Morris, in fact. And then I also had another buddy who lost a really big fish on a spoon. Well, believe it or not, white bass fishing, but he's throwing a real big spoon, tinkering around out there. And so those really big fish are very soon, with some sun and some heat, they're going to move offshore real fast. And so I'm testing it. What I'm really doing, you know what I'm doing. I'm throwing a football jig. And that's my favorite thing. I'm going to throw a Carolina rig. I'm going to throw a wobble head. I'm going to throw a shaky head. But I'm going to search for them with a jig. And generally, a couple things on my jig right now. Post-spawn colors for me are always, brim colors, Pake's perch, PB and J. Believe it or not, PB and J represents a brim color in the water. That's what that pumpkin, PB and J pumpkin is. A lot of purple and brim too. But remember this, I throw the bigger trailer. So this is a Santone 3/4 ounce football jig. Okay. Large trailer. This is a 4-inch rage crawl lobster. That bigger profile gets me the bigger bite. All right. What I have noticed is a lot of times they don't necessarily want, again, like a frog, they don't want that real heavy action, which is what this thumping paddling is doing on the bottom. And so I'll go to something more subtle, like a Berkeley Pit Boss. This one right here is actually the big Pit Boss. This one is called the Papa Pit Boss. And that replaces that large profile. You see that? I still have that 4 to 5 inch. It's more a length thing than so much the size thing. But this Papa Pit Boss is even a little more bulky. And they got some really cool colors, great summer colors too. I'm looking forward to throwing this a lot. But I'll pull that Strike King lobster off of there and run that Papa on there, or if they're not eating it. I'm going to fish that generally in right now anywhere from 8 to 20, 22 feet of water, and expecting that bite to get better and better and deeper as the summer weather comes around. You notice how I paused on that? One of my first visits here was in May of 2010. As a memory I'll never forget, it was a week with Mr. Mark Pack. God rest your soul. And it's part of also that same week why I decided I was coming someday to Lake Fork. But during that week, every day we begged Mark to do anything, take us on a boat ride, to cool us off, to get us wet, anything. It was so hot. And still wearing hoodies, still wearing jackets on boat rides, still getting wet, which is common for May to get wet. And it's not cold anymore at all. I'm in shorts right now in my garage, but it's been an amazing, truly amazing. Anyone that works in the outdoors, anyone that fishes, hunts for a living, anyone that farms specifically, I feel for all of you, and God be with all of you. The weather needs to change. We need to dry up now, and we need to have some heat. I know one of the crappie guides said he'd canceled 31 guide trips. You don't know what that does to and income. It can't be made up. The season's gone. And so anyways, appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. All you that run into us and say hi, I give it right back to you. Everybody, you know, there at the Legends events, and man, all the thankful people, more to you. Without you, there's no me. There's no one to talk to if you're not willing to listen. So I'm really grateful for that. Keep on that. Give me the thumbs up so I know you're enjoying it. Comment below if you have any ideas, or you just simply want to tell me hi and thank you. Comment, man, I really enjoy that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Find me on Instagram, The Lake Fork Guide. Find me on my business Facebook page, Lake Fork Adventures Guide Service. June is about full now. There's only, I think, 4 or 5 dates left, and we're working on July. If you really want to learn that offshore stuff, you need to book now. Don't be surprised if you wait too long. Those dates will no longer be there. And but other than that, I really appreciate you. I'm Mike McFarland, The Lake Fork Guide, giving you a Lake Fork rundown.